My knees hit the ground before my mind caught up. The lynx lay across the path like a dropped coat, ribs moving in quick, shallow waves, eyes half open and on me. My hand hovered a few inches from the paw. If she flinched, I would back off. She did not flinch. I breathed slow and named what I saw the way we do on the radio. Ears alert. No fresh blood. Right forepaw swollen. Breathing fast. No growl. The words steadied me. Footsteps and voices broke the trees. A family in bright jackets stopped. The father raised his phone. The mother pulled the child back. Is it safe, man? So am I when I am hurt. Please give us space. They stepped away. I slid off my jacket and edged it under her shoulder to lift the chest. Her eyes pinned me, not hard, only awake. We were two tired creatures in a public place. Only one of us had claws. I called Emma. She ran a mobile clinic from a van the color of wet stone. Found a lynx on the north switchback. Right paw swollen. Calm for now. Do not move her unless she is in traffic. Keep the head level. I am 10 minutes out if the road is clear. I will flag you in. I called Frank, the ranger who knew every storm rut by memory. Tell the tourists to stand back. Do nothing till I get there. If she starts choking, I am not waiting. Do not be a hero, Mark. The child had wandered close again. I showed him my open hands. He looked at the cat the way a kid looks at a frozen lake, part hope, part fear. His mother led him away. I checked the paw. Between the toes, packed mud and a thin line of swelling. Around the wrist, an abrasion like something narrow had rubbed there for hours. Near the neck, a fray of bright blue plastic. I pinched the thread, and it came away like a broken ribbon. I kept it. Engines climbed the hill. Emma jumped down before her wheels stopped. She moved with sharp quiet. Good job on the jacket. We will sedate lightly. I need space. Frank's rig pulled in behind her. He climbed out, jaw set. You get a permit call. She is not collecting a trophy, Frank. She is keeping the airway open. The rules are there so nobody gets mauled. The rule is do not let an animal suffocate in front of tourists. The tourists drifted back. Emma pulled a kit, handed me gauze and a small syringe. If she bats, you step back. No pride. I will count. 1, 2. Now. The needle slid under the skin. The cat's eyes slowed but did not close. Emma checked gum color, breathing, ear reflex. She nodded, lifted the shoulders on my mark. Frank, help with the hips. Steady. We moved her onto a canvas stretcher. She weighed less than I thought and more than she should. We slid her into the van. The air smelled like iodine and pine. Inside, warm lights. Emma clipped a small tag to the scruff with a soft click. Temporary marker. Not a full collar. A breadcrumb so we can find her if she collapses again. You know this will stir people up. People live here. Wildlife lives here. We manage. She cleaned the paw. Mud, grit, a cut deep enough to worry. No bone showing. She wrapped it in soft bandage and a light splint. And if she walks into a backyard, then the backyard needs a fence that works. He looked at the cat, then at me. You step outside your job today, Mark. You also step into trouble. I can live with that. Emma paused at the neck and held up the blue thread. Where did you get this? Caught in her fur. Abrasion on the wrist, too. Looks like packing strap. The thin kind from pallets. One careless load can seed a hillside for months. There is no dump up here. There does not need to be. Silence. Outside, the family moved off down the hill. Emma finished the wrap and nodded. We release her near the aspen grove by the old quarry. Short drive. Fewer dogs. We will monitor a week. I will call my supervisor. He will not love it. He cannot love it from his office while we do what is needed. We drove. I followed the van. The road curled like a slow river. In the mirror, the boy waved at the trees as if they could wave back. At the grove, we set the stretcher on the grass. Emma loosened the strap. The lynx lifted her head, tested the paw, and stood. For a second, she stayed near me. Her shoulder brushed the jacket. She inhaled, then stepped away. Not fast, not slow. Each step a decision. Gate is open. Let her choose. She walked into thin shade and turned to understory again. Tawny and spotted, a rumor with a heartbeat. The small tag pinged once on Emma's tablet. A sound more like a breath than a beep. Breadcrumb in place. We will check twice a day. Text if you hear chatter. We packed the gear. Frank stood with hands on his belt. Meeting at the school gym tomorrow night. Folks will want answers. They expect you there, Mark. I am not a speaker. You are now. He drove off. Emma slid the blue thread into a sample bag and handed me another. Keep your eyes open for more of this. If you find the source, Call me first. Not the internet. Me. Copy. And sleep. Your hands shook when I arrived. They shake when I care. She looked at me, then closed the van door with a quiet click that sounded like a folded decision. I stayed a little longer. The grove held late light. My jacket smelled like wet fur. In the grass near my boot, an ant tugged at a shred of blue plastic as if it were luck. On the drive home, town slid past in small scenes. The grocery clerk flipped the sign to closed. A dog nosed the screen door of the barber shop. A kid on a skateboard filmed himself and fell and laughed. Life adjusted around the rumor that a lynx had slept on a stranger's jacket. At home, I laid the jacket over a chair and washed my hands until the water ran cold. Emma's map arrived on my phone, a quiet, moving into the folds of the hills. I watched it a minute. The dot paused, then carried on toward the north ridge. I rested my head against the window and listened to the house tick. In that tick lived a question. Why did a bright, thin loop of plastic end up in the fur of an animal that had never held a package or stacked a pallet? I had no answer. I had a thread in a bag and a meeting in the gym. Before sleep, I set the alarm and placed boots by the door. If she came back toward the road, I wanted to be ready. Not with speeches. With steady hands and a jacket that still carried her scent. The next morning, the town felt smaller. At the grocery store, two women near the bread rack whispered about a wild cat limping through the hills. One of them noticed me by the oranges and fell quiet. Rumor travels faster than news when it wears spots and walks on four legs. At the gas station, the clerk leaned on the counter. He asked if it was true I carried a lynx on my jacket. I said nothing, and he grinned like silence was confession enough. A man by the window muttered that animals belong in cages. Nobody answered him. By noon, the notice went up. Community meeting in the school gym at 7. Bring questions. Bring concerns. Bring your children if you must. Work dragged. I fixed a generator, replaced a switch on a line crew truck, and still the thoughts circled. Tonight people would look at me for answers I did not own. I had only seen her breathe, felt the weight of her bones through canvas. That was not expertise. That was contact. The gym lights buzzed. Folding chairs filled the court. The scoreboard glowed 0-0 above our heads. Emma set up a tablet on a table and spread papers. Frank leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Grown men who spent their lives in these hills sat with shoulders tense. Mothers gripped their kids' hands. The whole place smelled of floor polish and unease. The principal tapped the mic and handed it to Frank. He spoke slow, about procedure, about wildlife corridors and caution. He said the lynx was tagged, that she would be monitored, that no one should panic. His voice carried weight, but not comfort. A man in a work vest stood. Howard, the mill owner. He raised his voice. He said one slip and a child could be gone. He said letting predators roam close to town was reckless. Murmurs of agreement rolled like low thunder. Emma stepped forward. She showed the swelling on the paw, the abrasion, the scrap of blue strap. She explained how plastic kills quieter than claws. She reminded them that the lynx had not struck at anyone, had walked away when freed. Facts held steady but did not soften fear. Eyes turned to me. My name left someone's mouth. I felt it push me upright. I said I found her because I walked a path I always walk. I said she weighed less than a sack of feed and more than she should have. I said I had looked her in the eye and seen pain, not malice. I told them that if we wanted children safe, we needed to clear trash from the woods more than we needed to shout at shadows. Howard cut me off. He asked if I would take the blame if a kid vanished. My mouth went dry. Emma spoke, sharp, saying that blame does not shield anyone, but action does. Frank finally said enough and ended the back and forth before voices cracked into shouts. The meeting closed with no vote. Only tension folded back into jackets. Parents pulled kids close. Howard left first, boots striking the wood floor too loud. Outside, night air felt cooler. Logan, the neighbor kid with restless eyes, came up beside me. He held his phone tight, like it was a secret. He asked if I really thought the blue strap mattered. I said yes. He asked if he could help. I told him to meet me at the trail after school tomorrow. The next afternoon, we walked the shoulder of the old logging road. Trucks had not passed in years, but the gravel still held ruts. Logan filmed weeds sprouting through the cracks. He spotted the first piece of strap, half buried, chewed at the end like a dog toy. Then another, caught in a bush. Bright blue against the green. Too many to be accident. He collected a few scraps in a bag. His voice shook, but he smiled. He said this was proof, like in documentaries. I told him proof was only the start. You had to follow it until it hurt. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling. The quiet pressed too heavy. I called Emma. Her voice came tired but clear. I told her what we found. I told her about the road, about the straps scattered like breadcrumbs leading nowhere. Then I told her the thing I had never said out loud. Last year, during a storm, I delayed calling in a downed line. I thought I could fix it alone. A man touched the wire before I got back with the gear. He lived, but he will never walk the same. Delay had a price. It lived under my ribs. Emma did not fill the silence. She just breathed with me until the weight felt shared. Then she said the collar ping was odd. The signal cut in and out when the Lynx passed the mill road. She said it could be interference or worse. She told me to be careful. I said careful was not enough anymore. After the call, I sat at the table with the bag of blue scraps. The plastic glowed faint in the kitchen light. I thought of the Lynx stepping soft through the trees, carrying pain we had given her without a thought. Outside, the hills swallowed sound. The collar ping blinked weak on Emma's screen miles away, and I imagined it like a heartbeat, strong one moment, fading the next. The sky dimmed in the late afternoon, gray stacking over the ridges like stone walls ready to fall. Static prickled in the air. My phone buzzed with a volunteer alert. Storm front approaching, stand by for calls. I threw my rain gear in the truck and checked the flashlight twice. Nights like this never pass quietly. At the door, Logan waited. He held up his drone controller like a badge. He said he had footage from the ridge. He pressed play. The drone drifted above the logging road, trees swaying below. Through the static-laced audio came a metallic clatter, faint but steady, like a chain dragged across stone. The boy's eyes were wide. He asked if it could be her. I told him sound carried strange in canyons, but my gut knew it mattered. We drove to the firehouse where Emma hunched over her tablet. She showed us the collar data. The Lynx moved in circles, back and forth in a narrow stretch by the mill road. Not hunting, not roaming, trapped in a loop. Emma rubbed her forehead. She said the interference spiked only there. She said something was pulling her back. Frank stormed in, radio pressed to his chest. Trees were down near the highway. Power lines tangled. He barked orders to volunteers, then saw us. He told me to stay put, to let the state team handle wildlife. He was gone before I could answer. Rain started as a whisper, then sheets. The town blinked out, lights dropping one block at a time. Generators coughed. In the half-dark, Emma said she had to cover the clinic. She could not leave the patients. She grabbed my sleeve and told me not to do anything reckless. Logan asked what that meant. I told him it meant do not follow. I needed wheels with clearance. Howard's mill sat dark, but his pickup was outside, keys likely in the office. I found him pacing under the awning, smoke curling from his mouth. He asked what I wanted. I told him I needed his truck. He narrowed his eyes. I added that the straps we found matched the pallets that came through his yard. His jaw tightened. He said take it, but if anyone asked, he was never part of this. He handed me the key and turned away. I drove through water pooling on the bends, wipers losing the race. Branches whipped the hood. The old road appeared like a scar across the hillside. I eased onto the gravel, headlights cutting tunnels in the rain. Blue glints caught the beams, rolls of strap, whole and unused, stacked against a rusted drum. The rain hammered them flat, bright against the mud. I killed the engine. The silence was not silence. Water rushing, branches cracking, and beneath it, that sound from the drone recording. A hollow metallic rasp, close now. I stepped out, boots sinking deep. The beam of the flashlight caught grooves in the mud, sliding tracks, as if something had struggled downhill. I followed them toward the drop. My heart punched in rhythm with the thunder. The track stopped at the edge where the slope fell into shadow. I leaned out, rain pelting my face. From below rose a sound not quite a cry. Short, low, pulled from lungs out of breath. A sound too close to human to ignore, too raw to mistake. I reached for my phone, the screen slick. Emma's signal feed was gone. The collar flatlined. No pulse, no ping. The storm swallowed every other noise. I gripped the wet ground, staring into the dark, knowing she was down there, and that time had already thinned to threads. Ropes cut into my palms as I lowered myself over the edge. Rain slicked every stone, every root, until the hillside felt like glass. My knees scraped mud, boots slipped, and still I pushed down, following the weak rasp that rose from the dark below. The storm pressed against my back, a living weight, while water ran down my neck and into my shirt. Every breath felt like it could be the last before I lost grip. The beam of a lantern swept over me. Frank's voice carried through the rain, steady even when the ground shifted. He told me to watch my footing, his tone calm but edged with urgency. Above him, Howard braced the rope against his shoulder, silent, jaw tight, rain streaming down his hair. Their weight anchored mine. Without them, I would have slid and been gone in seconds. The rope vibrated with every movement, every slip of my boot. I pressed against wet concrete, an old culvert ring half buried in the slope. Rusted iron bars jutted like broken teeth from its mouth. The mud smelled of rust and old water. And there she was. The Lynx sprawled on her side, throat caught in a thin blue loop pulled tight around the iron. Her chest heaved shallow, her flanks barely lifting, eyes dim but alive, flickering with fading light. Her fur clung wet to her frame, spots blurred by rain. It was the sight of an animal halfway between this world and the next. I shouted up for light. Frank leaned farther, lamp throwing a pale circle over the tangle, shadows stretching like fingers across the slope. Emma's voice crackled from the radio at my hip, thin through the storm. She asked for pulse, color, breath. I answered quick, hand trembling near the lynx's jaw, feeling the weak twitch of life beneath soaked fur. She told me to stay calm, to measure each action, because one mistake would be fatal. Knife out. I slid the blade under the strap, but the plastic refused, water hardening it like wire. The storm made every move harder. I dug pliers from my pack, rain making them slip against my gloves. Emma's voice urged slow steps, not to nick the throat, not to let panic rush my hands. My muscles cramped, but I braced my knee against stone, pressed with everything I had, and the pliers bit deep. The strap creaked, stretched, then split with a sharp snap that cut through the roar of rain. She gasped once, air tearing back into her lungs, harsh and ragged. Her body lurched and claws flashed, a brief reminder of what she was, before she stilled again. I pulled the loop free and shoved it into my pocket, heart hammering against my ribs as if it might break out. My chest burned with the echo of her breath, a sound stronger than any thunder overhead. She rolled onto her belly. For a long moment, she did not move, only rain drumming on the culvert and sliding off her whiskers. I waited, hand still, heart too loud in my ears. Then, slowly, she pushed to her feet, shaky but firm, her legs trembling like a foal's. She turned, eyes catching the beam of light. She looked at me, not through me, and held my gaze. 1 second stretched into many. Then she stepped past, climbing into the black pines without sound, absorbed into the storm's shadow. Frank hauled me back up, rope burning my arms raw. Howard caught my elbow when my boots hit gravel, his grip tighter than I expected. None of us spoke for a while. The only noise was the storm easing, thunder rolling away like a tired drum, rain thinning to mist. Each of us carried something unspoken, the kind of silence that weighs more than words. By dawn the gym filled again, but not with fear this time. People unfolded bags, gloves, tools. Kids carried water and passed them hand to hand like it was a game. Emma laid maps across tables, marking roads and ditches to sweep clean. Frank called names and passed shovels with brisk orders. Even Howard signed a paper promising trucks and men for the cleanup, his name scrawled heavy but certain. The town shifted from talk to work. I stood near the doorway, jacket still damp, watching the bustle. The sound of voices rose not in anger, but in purpose. No one asked me to speak this time. They worked, and that was enough. It felt different than the night before, less suspicion, more resolve. The smell of coffee drifted from the corner. Someone laughed. Even small things felt larger in that light. At home, I hung the old jacket by the stove. The fabric smelled of rain and fur, of weight pressed against it in trust. Sun crept through the window, thin but warm, pushing back shadows that had lived too long in the corners. I did not know if she remembered me, or if memory mattered. She had chosen to breathe free again. That was enough. The house seemed quieter than usual, as if listening with me. The jacket dripped slow, each drop a measure of silence. In that silence lay a kind of answer. Not words, not certainty, just the space to believe. And in that space, I let the weight on my chest ease a little, knowing the hills carried her, knowing I had done one small thing right.